You have got to hear what Becky Lynch just said about Vince McMahon, because Becky Lynch, well, leave it up to her to give the truth, right? Because Becky Lynch is the latest WB star to give her thoughts on the allegations against former WB CEO and chairman Vince McMahon. Because a lawsuit filed by former WWE employee Janelle Grant alleged that McMahon had been involved in various horrific things, including sex trafficking, abuse, and more. WWE and former executive John Laurinaitis, well, they were named in the suit. And there have been a few different stars come out and publicly talk about Vince McMahon, talk about the allegations that are involved in this lawsuit. John Cena, Randy Orton, a few others, they've given their thoughts on this. At first, WWE told everybody, don't talk about this, but of course, you're going to be asked about it when you're doing media. And I would expect, with WrestleMania legitimately right around the corner, well, there's going to be other folks be asked about it. Becky Lynch, one of WWE's biggest stars right now, not only in the female division, but as well as in the entire company, people are going to want to hear what she has to say. She'll probably comment about it more heading into Mania, where she challenges Rhea Ripley for the Women's World Championship. WrestleMania 40, Philadelphia, April 6th and 7th. While we don't know the match night yet, I would anticipate it taking place on night one. Just had to guess. Now, Becky Lynch, she's had a very interesting relationship with Vince, and I want to take a step back for a minute. She talked about in her book, which is out now, excerpts have come out regarding this. And in one moment, she wrote about telling Vince she was pregnant. And it was about 5 weeks along, and she one night told Seth Rollins, hey, I think we got to tell the old man. Oh, this is not good. We've told everyone important to us this great news, this exciting news. We got to tell him. And then it dawned on her, oh, we're in a pandemic. She's the Raw Women's Champion. She's one of their biggest stars. They spent 2019 building her up to being this megastar. She headlined WrestleMania 35. How is he going to react? She started thinking, well, what can I do behind the scenes? What can I do on camera that's in a non-physical way while she's, becoming a mother? And so she thought, well, I could work behind the scenes. I could be an agent. I could be on the creative team. I could be a commentator. I could be a host. I could do this. I could do that. And so finally she called Vince one day, and as soon as he answered, she said that he's like, oh, congratulations. I'm so happy for you, yada, yada, yada. And it was a relief to her. So what did she have to say about these allegations? Well, she was on the Sports Media podcast, and she said this. They're horrendous allegations. They're horrendous. And it's so hard to listen and reconcile with that because you don't know that person. The person that you experienced was like a granddad. At times, a very grumpy granddad, and one that you're frustrated with, but one that was so supportive of me and my family and my career, encouraging and understanding at times. And it's also very responsible for one, the dream that I have, the fact that there is a WWE. And then allowing me to live my dream for meeting my husband and my whole family and everything that I have. And then you hear these allegations, and it's hard to connect the two. In many ways, I just feel like there are two different people. So trying to see them as one person, I don't know. It's very hard. It's very difficult to reconcile. So I highly recommend you go and check out the full interview with Becky, because the Sports Media podcast, Richard does some phenomenal interviews. First of all, she talked about her new book that I'm thinking I'm going to get. I think it'd be interesting. She talked about self-doubt, honesty, her career, so much more. I go back to how things have changed so much in WWE following Vince McMahon is doing some of the most horrendous creative in recent memory. Do y'all remember 2018? Do y'all remember 2019? in the pandemic? How about all of the times in which you read on a Monday or a Friday, back then Tuesday, really up until he, quote-unquote, retired? All the times that creative would change hours, perhaps under an hour before the show went live. How many times did you hear reports, see reports, read reports about how creative was being worked on during the show for the remainder of the show? That's pretty interesting. That's an interesting guy to try to get a clear direction from. He would change his mind on a whim. You take away the horrific allegations, horrific things that are said in this lawsuit by Janelle Grant. That's one thing, and that's the more serious thing. But if you just look at it from a WB standpoint, you look at a guy who's changed his mind on a whim, who you never knew was going to be in a good day or a bad day. Chris Jericho wrote in his book, and he's talked about in interviews, that when he would go pitch Vince McMahon on something, he would ask, Vince's assistant or someone that had been near Vince at the time, hey, was he eating? Because if he was in the middle of eating, he wouldn't hear a word you said. If he was hungry, he wouldn't hear a word you said. You had to catch him at the right time just to have a conversation with this man and for him to be open with you. If not, he would completely shut down any ideas or anything you had to say. That says something, right? And then you go from that toxic workplace, to then Triple H taking main roster creative over in the summer of 2022. And everyone has praised the way that things have changed. Everyone has talked about how highly they think of Triple H and the job that he's done and the boss that he is, and being open and willing to try new things and changing up the product. Right? The product's only gotten better since Kevin Dunn has left as well. Kevin Dunn, longtime guy in charge of WWE programming, the director, if you will. He oversaw the way that WWE television was presented, and Triple H and others wanted to change that presentation once it was made clear that Vince wasn't coming back. Well, he took his ball and he went home, a la Steve Austin in 2002. So it's an interesting time for the company. It's an interesting time that they're trying to distance themselves from Vince, as they should. I'm not blaming them for not doing so, but it's just an interesting time. I'm curious to see who else is asked about Vince over Mania week, what they have to say about Vince. WB is clearly trying to separate their history from Vince, although that is quite difficult considering who he is and the foundation in which he built the company on.